Singing that song for some reason. Hey, this is Trout Bit and Tips. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back to the 9 essential skills for tight line and Euro nymphing. Today we are on step 5. It's all about the sighter. It's about reading contact on the sighter, finding that contact, and then understanding really what the sighter shows us. That 2 to 4 feet of colored line that's right before your tippet, your sighter, shows you everything you need to know about what's happening underneath. We're not guessing where the fly is. We're not guessing about its angle, its depth, or its speed. We're not guessing. We know where it is, and we're going to decide where it goes next. We're at least going to track where it goes next. So by reading that sighter, we really get to see into that underwater world in a way, and it just opens everything up. Brings the visual aspect into this tight line game. So instead of kind of hoping something happens, we can really make it happen. And you can even walk away from a situation then and know that you fished it well. You know, even if you don't catch a fish, you can know that you fished it well and walk away not just satisfied, but also thinking like, okay, I fished that well with those flies in that way. What can I change? So we're going to talk about reading the sighter, finding contact, step 5. Are you ready? Here we go. So the way I look at it, there's 3 things that make any tight line system work. It's, first of all, we're taking the fly line, the traditional fly line out of the game. Today I'm using this standard mono rig. It's a 20-pound butt section. It's the green line here. Green so you can see it. I actually prefer the Maxima Chameleon for the regular build. That's the first thing that makes any tight line system work, is we've taken the traditional fly line out of the game, but we're using fly line style casts, yes. Another thing, one of the other 3 things that makes any tight line system work is the tippet. Underneath the water, I don't have 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, and 5x. Today I just have 5x under the water. And I'll say third, and the most important thing that makes any tight line system work is the sighter. I said a second ago, you can have 2 feet, 4 feet. In this case, I have really the whole leader, you can see it. But the sighter section is really just this colored line. Let's say these 4 feet. I have some bicolor, Rio bicolor. There's some gold strand here. And then in my leader build, I have some red amnesia. We'll talk about materials for your sighter at the end of the video. But all of this right here is the most important thing in the system, in my opinion. I mean, this is really what makes the whole thing work. Out of those 3 elements, the sighter is the most important. So let me mention first, we did a full video, 5 keys to reading the sighter. Some of these same principles are in there, go a little deeper in different ways. This is, part of these 9 essential skills. And here's what we're reading. When you're fishing out there, here's what you're looking for. First, you got to find contact. You cannot read a sighter that looks like this, right? If it's droopy like that, you don't have contact. When you tighten it up, and right there, you have your contact. So that's key. You cannot read it when it's like this. You don't have strike detection, and you don't understand then the depth and the angle and the speed, the other things we're going to talk about. So the first thing to really find, after your tuck cast, after you stick the landing, after you recover the slack, like we talked about in the other skills, the first thing is contact. And now watch this. Here's contact. Now that's very pure, semi-tight contact. It is, it's tight. I would be tight from my rod tip to the fly. And then if I just ever so slightly back out of that contact, you're going to see what I call a nervous sighter. All I did was back off 1/8 of an inch, if that. It's just a little less contact. So right there, you can kind of see it jiggling. It's a really big deal to me. That's how I'm going to read really how much I'm influencing the fly. So if I have less contact, even like that a little bit, then I have less influence over the flies. The flies can kind of do their own thing more. If I have more contact, if I'm slipping contact in this way, then I have more influence over the fly. I might be deliberately kind of leading them through, keeping them up so they don't hang on the bottom, and so I can get a real nice natural drift through the strike zone. Now, I just said slip in contact and hit that. I've mentioned it in these other episodes. Here we have that concept. There's contact, there's slightly out. Just like I was showing you, there's contact again, and then slightly out. Now you might do that slipping contact multiple times throughout the drift. That's the main thing to be able to read on the sighter. Do I have contact? No. Yes. And then how much contact? You can read that by what I like to, the way I like to do it is with this nervous sighter. I should mention a lot of people talk about a bow in the sighter, and they'll set up their sighter section a little differently and maybe perhaps even fish a little differently. So that would be slightly out for them, and then they'll tighten it up. I say they, I mean, I'll use the bow concept, but here you can look at that bow, and if you have a very limp sighter, it's gonna bow more on you. I tend to kind of like to build my sighters a little differently and maybe even fish a little differently, perhaps with more weight, so that I am a little more straight, a little more often, and then I just use the concept of that nervous sighter to let me know how much contact I really have. So what do we mean by contact? Understand, I'm not saying contact with the bottom. It's contact from the rod tip to the fly. That's the key. And by having that contact, then we can trust what the sighter is showing us. Without it, we really don't have any understanding about what's below. It's that visual. The tight line game, and especially reading this sighter, brings that visual aspect back into fishing. Everybody loves dry fly fishing because you can see up top. You can see the dry fly. It's visual. It's so much fun. You see the eat. You see success or failure on top because your dry fly drifts or doesn't. We like the streamer game because a lot of that can be very visual. You can see the eats. If you're using a visual streamer, you're not too deep, you can see that. It's very exciting. I think one of the reasons people may not like nymphing or never get comfortable with it is they can't see it. And that's why people like fishing an indicator, because you can see the indie and then you're setting on the indie. You at least kind of know where your fly is underneath there. And with the sighter, we bring the visual aspect back into the game. And like I said a minute ago, you really do know everything about what's going on underneath when you have contact on the sighter. Contact from rod tip to fly. Now another thing to consider is that by adding more weight, whether that's in the split shot or the fly, the weight kind of helps you gain that contact. More weight, well, wants to drop, and it pulls that way as you're kind of tightening up this way. So it's just something to think about. Maybe if you're really trying to read the sighter or improve that skill, then I wouldn't use the lightest flies or the lightest system that you have. I'd err on the side of a little heavier rather than a little lighter. Hey, this video is sponsored by our friends over at Trout Routes. It's an angler's app. It's really your fishing companion. Think of it that way. Trout Routes aggregates a bunch of good data about river conditions, water temperatures, river levels. It'll show you where the next fly shop is. And what I like best about it is really the mapping software. Where I used to use Google Maps, I now often just open up Trout Routes to kind of find the next public access point, parking spots on some of my favorite rivers. And then I feel like I could just go all across the country using the Trout Routes app to kind of guide me in to the next place. So you can use the code TROUTPIT for 20% off your pro membership at maps.troutroutes.com. Thanks to Trout Routes for supporting the Trout Pitting Project. Thank you too. So let's look at it on the water. Let's get a few casts in, get a few drifts, and really look at what we're talking about. Remember, it all starts with angle and approach. Where am I? I would love to fish this pocket, and that's my lane. Reaching out, found it. There's my angle and approach. Set up cast. I'm gonna tuck it in, recover slack. Here I am. Good. The first drift I really didn't want to touch. My first couple drifts, I'm just feeling it out. Stick the landing, recover slack. And I'm finding contact on that sighter, honestly, like almost immediately. You could see how it's straight. It's a little nervous there as I let it drop. Hey now. Hey now. So I said that right away, I got contact. And then I'm kind of backing out of that contact, getting that little nervous sighter, that little nervousness to it. And I know that I'm letting that fly fall. I'm actually using split shot and an unweighted fly right now. I have a #1 split shot. It's 30 centigrams. And I'm usually looking for a reason to set on every drift. So I get short drifts. There I'm in. Now, if the fish were coming up through the water column, I wouldn't worry so much about getting down and spending time in that strike zone. But again, that's the next skill. Finding that contact. Right there, I got it. There's a little nervousness on the sighter, a little wave to it. Looks good. Makes me comfortable because I know I have contact. I know exactly where my fly is. I really do. When I first go in, it's a little wavy. I'm letting it fall on purpose. There, I got my contact. Again, not contact with the bottom, but just pure contact between me and the fly. Not yet. Right there, it flattened out for me. And then I touched the bottom. Right. That time I almost landed with contact. Right. So this time try to let it fall, a little waviness to the sighter. That's nice. That little nervousness, that's what I'm talking about. I said I know exactly where the fly is. That's because I always know exactly how much tippet I have on. I got 4 feet today. There's 2, and there's 4 feet on my arm. That's 2 and 2, 4 feet to the split shot in this case. I usually fish with 4, 4.5, 5, I say usually. I don't vary it much. As the day goes on, I'm not gonna change my tippet length unless I really have to, because I like to just kind of get my brain processing that same distance all the time, because I'm seeing beyond my sighter. I'm looking into the water to know where it is, to know where the fly is, and I have just a lot of confidence about exactly where the fly is because I'm reading contact right there on the sighter. Now it can take, I don't know, a second or two. I don't think it should take more than 2 seconds to find your contact. And then I can come out of it. Remember too, with the tuck cast, I'm building a little bit of slack into that system sometimes. And this is a little deeper water, so you're gonna see a little wave in the sighter at first. That's good, that's fine. Tuck it in, wave. Not only is it fine, it's exactly what I want. A little wave in the sighter, a little nervousness. I know that it's fallen without me taking it somewhere yet. Just looking at where that sighter's pointing. I have my depth, my angle, my speed, all right there on the sighter. There's no guessing. I know exactly where it is. That's in. So let's talk about sighter material. I mean, you got a lot of options these days, and that's cool. The first thing is, man, you want to be able to see it. If you can't see your sighter, it's kind of useless. The whole point is that visual aspect. You got to see it. What I'm using here is 1X Rio bicolor. 1X is kind of thick, I suppose, for a sighter. Now here's gold strand, and that for me is a 10-pound gold strand. I build a taper into my sighter. Then I have 12-pound red amnesia. You can do it like I do. I definitely see my sighter. Or you can, I don't know, find something that works for your eyes. Another thing to understand is, I guess people see different colors different ways. Also, you know, your vegetation might be, it probably is different than ours. And so you're gonna see certain colors and I'm not, and then vice versa. Find the color that you can see. Find definitely the thickness that you can see. If you're using a 5X sighter, you might not see it. And again, it's kind of useless if you can't see it. I want to point out this backing barrel. This is 20-pound Dacron tied with a uni knot around this sighter. And what this does, well, it really draws my eyes to the whole colored line. You can slide that up and down and put it where you want. I just usually leave it in place. But you can, there we go, slide it. And it really, a lot of times, I talked about this nervous sighter. A lot of times that nervousness really stands out by kind of focusing on that backing barrel. And just jiggles around, it'll twist, strike detection. Everything is aided and helped, really, with that, by adding that backing barrel to it. You're not gonna miss the backing barrel, you're gonna see it. So, a thicker sighter, let's say 1X, OX, something in that range, is also gonna, well, give you more turnover, more power. I talk a lot about having power in the system, the whole system, in the butt section, in the middle part, in this taper of my sighter, and then even in the terminal part of my sighter being 1X. in this case, I have more power. I'm able to tuck it in around these trees. And the way that I like to cast, that suits me, right? And with the thicker cider, I feel like I can read that nervousness on a thicker and even a stiffer cider. The stiffness matters too. It's not just about the thickness. That stiff cider not only helps with the turnover, but again, it'll kind of shudder more or be more nervous. If you think about it, of a really limp material, like 5X Rio bicolor, 4X Rio bicolor, it's not going to show you that as much. Now it'll show you the bow in the cider more. You have a lot of options, and there are a lot of good choices. But figure out what works for you. And I don't know, I would try a bunch of things for sure. Finding contact and reading the cider, number 5. Now, all the steps before that were very much about getting us to this position where we're really kind of fishing. You're seeing, we're thinking about the flies down there, what they're doing, how deep we want them, what angles we want. We're reading that cider for contact. We're knowing where the flies are. That's the fishing part. We're finally fishing. Whereas the angle and approach, the tuck cast, the sticking the landing and recovering slack right at first, all of that kind of got us to this point where now we're getting the drifts. Next time we're talking about finding the strike zone, because when you get the fly, the nymphs, down to where the fish are really feeding, usually where they're holding, I mean, nothing changes a day more than that, actually getting the flies down to where the fish are. So I want to remind you about the Fish and Film series here on the Trout Pitting channel. Those videos are all about the fishing. I'll show you kind of, how I'll work through different changes throughout the day, fly changes, weight changes, water type changes. Those are fishing videos, Fish and Film series. This 9 Essential Skills series is very much instructional. Catch fish, a couple fish here and there. Josh and I are gonna go fishing right now. You ready, bud? Let's go do it. Everybody have fun out there. Fish hard. See you later. On the front end, yeah. I'll tell him. Keep going. I got the GoPro on right now. Nice. Hey, baby. Okay,